All right, so we talked about legislative powers that the president or that the Congress has. Okay, one that we didn't mention, I just want to throw out there is they have the power by Constitution to create new states. We have created 37 new states since our country began. We currently have a bunch of territories and other land. Puerto Rico is one, the Wake Island, the American Samoa, Virgin Islands, Guam, the Mariana Islands. Um, and the decision, some of them, I think Puerto Rico is a territory, but others are not. The decision to make them territories, which then is a step towards potential statehood, is also made by Congress. Okay. Um, but now we're talking about non legislative powers. Okay. And really, the most important of which is the impeachment process. Now, only three presidents in the history of our country have been impeached. President Trump recently just got impeached. He got impeached because he was accused of trying to do a quid pro quo to the Ukrainian government. If you guys investigate my political opponent, Joe Biden's son, then I'll give you this money that you need to fight your war with Russia. But it was not proven that, in fact, he said that it was an actual quid pro quo, was more insinuated. And although the House of Representatives voted to impeach him, the Senate did not vote to remove him. Therefore, he's still president, right? And that's how it works. The House impeaches, and then the Senate votes to remove. Bill Clinton was impeached. He was impeached for lying about an affair he was having with a 23-year-old employee or intern at the White House. And they impeached him. But then the Senate did not vote to remove. Remember, impeachment is a simple 50% majority, but removal requires a 2/3 supermajority, which is really hard to get. Even Andrew Johnson, going back to, he's the guy who took over after Abraham Lincoln, going all the way back to the Civil War era. He was impeached in part because he was a Southerner, and the Northerners who were in charge at that point thought he was being too soft on the Southern states. And that wasn't the actual reason for impeachment. They looked for reasons to impeach him. I think they tried a few times until finally they didn't impeach him, but he wasn't removed. Now, the one president that did leave office in disgrace was Richard Nixon, who, by the way, was a Californian. His library exists today in Whittier. Check it out. I liked it. It was really cool to me. I'm into this stuff, though, of course. But he was going to be impeached, and then after the impeachment, he was going to be removed. And the Senate Republicans came to him and said, "Look, there's enough votes to impeach you in the House, and there's only four Republican senators who support you, and I'm not one of them," he said. And Richard Nixon resigned the next day. He was going to be impeached and removed. Um, so that's a really important power. On top of that, um, you can also impeach judges. The Congress can. They can impeach political appointees, including attorney generals and other cabinet members. So impeachment is not just a presidential thing, and in fact, it has been used on other um, entities, other government workers, whether it be judges or cabinet members, over the history of our country. So that has happened as well too. Um, Congress also has the power to ratify treaties. If you want to make a treaty with someone, Congress has to approve. They also have the power to confirm judges, right? We just saw this when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died a month before the election, and the Republicans put in Amy Coney Barrett. Um, they had that power to confirm this judge. On top of, we know that this is one of the powers they have. Not just Supreme Court justices, but also appellate court judges. I don't know for sure, but I believe that there were over 215 appellate courts judges approved by the Republican Senate. The Senate makes these approvals, not the House, during Trump's 4 years. So and it's not only the high appellate courts, it's lower national federal courts. Um, but this is another power that they have that's not legislative, that's not lawmaking, right? So legislative power means power having to do with making laws. Non-legislative powers are other things that they have the power to do. Confirming judges is one, approving treaties, and lastly, the power to, or at least in part, the power to make an amendment to the Constitution. There have been 17 amendments to the Constitution since it was written. And in order for that to happen, there needs to be a vote in Congress, a two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate. And then, of course, it goes to the states for ratification, where 75% of the state have to ratify the amendment before it becomes law. So a very difficult process to ratify the Constitution, to amend the Constitution, but it's possible, and it all starts usually in Congress, although there's another way through state conventions. I believe that one, was it the 21st Amendment was passed that way, the one that ended the prohibition, or was it prohibition, the 18th Amendment? One was done that way. The majority, though, have been done starting in Congress with two-thirds majority in the House and Senate. So the power to amend the Constitution, at least in part, is also a non-legislative power. Okay, let's quiz. We have 10 minutes.